Hey everyone, my name is Caitlin Malone and welcome back to my true crime channel. On October 24th, which was a Sunday afternoon in Houston, Texas, a 911 call was placed by a 15-year-old boy who was claiming that him and his siblings had been abandoned inside of their apartment and that his 8-year-old brother had been dead for a year. When police arrived, they found 3 minors aged 15, 10, and 7 inside the apartment. The boys were noticeably malnourished, they had visible injuries, and were alone with no parental supervision inside an apartment that was in deplorable conditions. There was also no food for the children, and the electricity had been turned off. In the same apartment as the children, a 4th child lay deceased and decaying. And with that, in today's video, we are going to be discussing the Houston House of Horror case. But why were these children left alone inside this apartment? And where were their parents? Well, the mother was eventually apprehended and she was identified as 35-year-old Gloria Williams. And she was arrested alongside her 31-year-old boyfriend, Brian Coulter. And they were actually arrested at a public library where they were said to be looking up news stories online for their very own case. So here's a better look at these two. But this is the mother, along with her boyfriend, who are supposed to be taking care of these 4 children. So Gloria and Brian lived at the West Harris County apartment until around March 2021 before moving out and leaving her children behind, including the body of one of her children. Also meaning that Brian and Gloria had lived in this apartment with one of the children being dead for quite a few months. And not only did Gloria and Brian abandon these 3 surviving children inside this apartment, they moved about 15 minutes away to their own apartment. So they have 3 living children, 1 deceased child. They abandoned them at this apartment, moved 15 minutes away to start living out this like romantic child-free life together. They were living in fantasy land, which we will see through their social media posts, while 3 of her children were starving to death and trying to fend for themselves. I just don't understand how they could sleep at night like that. And in my opinion, these 2 people had no regard for anyone but themselves. The surviving children allege that at multiple points they were locked in the same room with their deceased brother, even while Gloria and Brian still lived there. The mother allegedly dropped off groceries once a month and kept the lease on the apartment so that the body of her deceased 4th child would not be found. Now, let's just unpack that for a moment. So she would drop off groceries once a month. 3 growing boys are going to go through whatever little groceries she left very fast. I'd say within a couple days. So the rest of the month, whatever she was dropping off to these kids, which I'm sure, I don't think it was very healthy. I think we'll learn it was just like noodles and stuff like that. So these 3 boys are trying to survive off this little bit of groceries that their mother's dropping them off with. I don't think that they were just worried about the body of that child being found. I think they didn't want to have to deal with any of their children anymore. And we will learn that she does say that she was scared that her other children were going to be taken away. I don't believe that at all, because she literally abandoned her children in this apartment and went off to their own apartment 15 minutes away to live in some fantasy land. But that's just my opinion. But clearly this little bit of groceries that Gloria was dropping off was not enough, because we will learn that neighbors were actually also helping to feed the children. So as I said, you can also see that Gloria and Brian were living up their lives child-free through their Instagram accounts, all while preaching family over everything, which is just fucking disgusting. While her children are either deceased or suffering down the street from her, Gloria's posting about a jewelry collection that she has. And what I personally feel is worse, Brian was constantly posting videos and photos of the meals that he was eating. Full plates of food that he's sitting there enjoying, all while his girlfriend's children are down the street in an apartment that they abandoned them in, with no food other than food that the neighbors are giving the 15-year-old brother to take home. I just can't get over that. He's literally posting about all this food he's eating, meanwhile these children are starving. There's a special kind of hell. That's all I'll say. I don't think I need to explain to you how much of a fucking loser this guy is. I'm just gonna show you some of these videos that he posted on his Instagram.
That's how I'm getting down, man. I'm talking about what y'all know about that, man. It's on everything, so, you know what I'm saying? I smoke mad weed, I drink mad shit, man, look. I just do my fair share of things, okay? Let's just say it like that. Y'all youngsters, y'all don't need to do this shit. So, whatever. Next month, it's on the cracker, so y'all, whoever watch these shit or whatever, be ready. That studio coming, man. There's a studio coming next month. So all you rappers who got bars, man, if y'all watching this shit, go ahead, DM or whatever the fuck y'all be screaming, all that shit. Send me your music, man. How about that? You done seen this face out in them streets, cause I be, I be everywhere. Like the munchies like a hoe. I stay with the munchies. That's why I get so damn fat. Some of y'all gentlemen out there, y'all ain't that blessed, man. Y'all ain't that lucky. Thank you. And thank you, Lord. You know what I'm saying? This shit right here. This shit good, man. That shit good than a motherfucker. Oh.
You feeling it?
Yes. It is. Thank you.
That's your favorite house.
Best steak I ever had in my life.
Better than cheddar than Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Fuck.
Okay. I know it's a bummer.
And Steph's not gonna go away.
Don't blame me, man. Blame God.
Steph's not gonna go away.
Don't blame me, man. Blame God.
Now that that's over with, I think you understand who this person Brian Coulter is now. I don't think I need any further explanation. He said it all himself. Let's jump back to who this deceased 8-year-old is. This little boy's name was Kendrick, and I've seen it said that he was on the autism scale. Kendrick was determined to have died from homicide due to multiple blunt force injuries and had said to be dead somewhere near Thanksgiving of 2020. And it makes me wonder what was happening inside of that apartment. Well, information has come out to give us more insight. On Monday, November 1st, Gloria made her first court appearance and more disturbing information came out. And I think one of the most shocking headlines from the Daily Mail described Brian and the situation so far as such. Gangster wannabe boyfriend in Houston House of Horrors regularly visited the roach and fly-infested apartment to beat up the 3 kids. He killed one, broke another's jaw, and left one gripped by almost fear, all while their mother turned a blind eye. These children were being abused by Brian on a daily basis. The child whose jaw was broken 3 months prior was never taken to a hospital or taken to any medical care for his broken jaw. Can you imagine him just trying to live life, let alone trying to eat even the little bit of food that was being brought to him with a broken jaw? And because it was never taken care of, he actually has to go have surgery now to have it corrected. I just can't imagine how painful that must have been. What I do find really interesting is they estimated Kendrick's time of death around the end of November 2020. And oddly enough, Brian actually was arrested. And he was arrested on November 23rd of 2020. So the way the story goes is that police pulled over Brian and Gloria, who had no children in the car with them. And a quote from ABC 13 reads, "One of the issues was that he was tired because they had driven from Houston to San Antonio and were on their way back to Houston, so they were driving all day. The officer believed Brian was high and he was cited for having marijuana and charged with unlawfully carrying a weapon. He had a .45 caliber on him." So this officer pulled him over. He believed that Brian was high and he cited him for having marijuana, and then he also charged him with unlawfully carrying a weapon because he was carrying a .45 caliber on him. Apparently he did have a license for it, but he's not supposed to be carrying this weapon while he's intoxicated. So he ended up getting arrested for that. And he didn't bail out though until the 29th. So he was in jail for quite a few days from this charge. But from all of this, it seems that the Harris County Sheriff estimated that Kendrick was killed a day or 2 before this arrest. So I did mention Gloria's court appearance earlier. Well, in this hearing, Gloria admitted that she didn't report Kendrick's death because she was scared that her other children would be taken away from her. Yet she left them in their own apartment and abandoned them there to go live in her own apartment by herself with her boyfriend and pretend that she had no kids. Make it make sense, lady. I'm gonna go with that she was scared of facing jail time, but that's just my opinion. Let me know down below if you agree with that. So there was actually another court appearance on Wednesday of this week, and in this court appearance, at least one of the brothers discussed the death of Kendrick and what happened because he was actually there when Kendrick died. And this brother ended up telling the courtroom that Brian kicked and punched Kendrick until his eyes were blackened and he was no longer moving.
Striking him in the face, feet, buttocks, back, his legs, and testicles with closed fists and feet. He stated his younger brother's eyes were black and that he stopped blinking during the assault.
On Sunday, the 15-year-old, seen blurred here, called 911 and this hell was discovered.
So these children witnessed their brother die and being murdered. And Gloria also admitted to being present at the time of Kendrick's murder and claims that she tried to stop Brian, but she couldn't. But then the very next day, Brian had a change of heart and decided to apologize to everyone for killing Kendrick, because like that's gonna make everything better. But if he really did feel that bad about it, why didn't he turn himself into the police and like face the charges, you know, and like have the kids live a better life instead of abandoning them a couple months later and just like letting them starve? I'm gonna also go with here that Brian just didn't give a shit and he was just trying to manipulate the situation. I'm gonna go with that. This case has really led a lot of people to wonder how the hell something like this could happen in an apartment complex. Did no one hear any of this happening? Did no one smell a decaying body? And it brings up the question, why didn't anyone intervene? Well, it turns out that quite a few neighbors did interviews and some of them did know something was up to some capacity. So the 15-year-old boy would end up leaving the apartment and ask neighbors to charge his phone. I'm assuming when the power was turned off, he couldn't like charge his own phone anymore. So he would go to neighbors and ask if he could borrow a charger or charge his phone at their home. And when some of these neighbors realized that the mother wasn't around a lot and he looked like he was hungry, they would offer him packaged snacks, and he would apparently only take things like packaged snacks, fruit, and pizza from them. He was scared to take certain items of food from the neighbors. And he would take these before running back to his apartment. The neighbors claimed they never knew that there were any other children in the apartment. They only ever seen the 15-year-old boy and thought it was just the 15-year-old boy there. They claimed to have either never seen the mother or hardly ever seen the mother, and when they rarely did see her, she was showing up with like noodles and snacks and drinks for the kids. So I'm gonna read you two different quotes from two different neighbors. The first quote was from Daily Beast and it reads, "The neighbor who has lived in City Park 2 for the past 15 years said maintenance staff over the past 2 weeks have been coming around to all of the apartments to see if they needed to be repaired. She wonders how no one noticed a moldering corpse in the unit during the workers' rounds." My best guess with that is maybe the 15-year-old answered the door, said his mother wasn't home right now, didn't let him inside. Probably the worker didn't want to go inside with a child by himself. In my opinion, I wouldn't want to either. You know, just not a good situation. However, another neighbor who also didn't want to be named told local ABC affiliate KTRK that the smell coming from the apartment was so bad she couldn't run her air conditioner because it carried the foul stench into her living space. The neighbor who moved into the complex about 18 months ago said she complained to building management more than once, but no action was ever taken. I don't know guys. I think the only explanation for that could be slumlords, just not very good management, and they clearly didn't care about a tenant complaining about a very bad smell. So Brian Coulter was charged with felony murder and is being held on a $1 million bond at the moment. Gloria has also been charged with injury to a child by omission as well as tampering with human corpse. Her bond is thankfully also set to $900,000. So that's kind of the gist of this case at the moment, the Houston House of Horror. I just feel so terrible for these children, for everything that they witnessed and they experienced. They went through so much trauma in their young lives so far, and that they're eventually taken in by someone that loves them and that they can live happy lives after all this tragedy they've experienced. And thankfully the children are now in protective custody, and hopefully, like I said, we'll find a loving home that's going to take care of them. I really hope that this mother never gets custody of these children again. So that is all the information I have on this case right now. As more information comes out, I will keep you guys updated on this case when more major things happen in it. I think we all need to take this as a learning moment. If you suspect something with a neighbor, especially involving children, report it. The worst thing you could do is report it and be wrong. The best thing you can do is save someone's life. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on this case below, and let's have a conversation about it. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button because I make weekly true crime videos and I would love to see you guys back here next week. Let's all keep little Kendrick in our thoughts today, and I wish you all peace and love.